Hey y'all, I'm Damon Oates, founder of Deco Exchange. Who else has heard that crafting is just a hobby? I turned my love of crafting into a thriving multi-seven-figure company, surrounded myself in an amazing community, and met some amazing business owners along the way. I'm here to show everyone that makers mean business.
What is up, you guys? It is Parker here with the Makers Mean Business podcast. I am back for the second part of our 7-part series. Y'all, I wanted to continue our story with what I talked about on the last episode. If you guys missed it, I would definitely recommend going back. But the premise is we made some mistakes that kind of messed up a lot of our shipments last month or this month. And mistakes like that can be super duper disheartening, and it's hard to navigate, yourself internally, like how you treat yourself, how the business suffers, and how you logistically try to fix that kind of stuff, as well as navigating with your customers and your community and all of the people around you that are watching you and seeing what's going on. So I touched on all of that on the last episode. I went into detail what happened, and I outlined how we're going to be going forward in these next few episodes and sharing some lessons learned. So this episode is going to be all about transparency. I'm doing a podcast. I'm doing a 7-part podcast episode on a mistake that I made. So I think it goes to show you, or it speaks to itself or speaks for itself with transparency. I've really considered it really like lying. Whether you're lying by omission or you're just straight up not telling the truth, I've always tried to be super transparent with the business, with our customers, our community, our employees, all of the things, all of the people, all of the places. I just always try to be transparent. And like I said, I consider it to be a matter of honesty. If you guys have never seen me before or never met me in person, this is going to go somewhere, I promise you guys. So just hold on for the ride here. I'm super duper pale. I have red hair. If I lie, or if I get embarrassed or angry or really experience any kind of stress or emotion, I turn really red, and it's super obvious. And honestly, if I'm trying to lie, I'm just a bad liar. I just can't do it. You can see it on my face. You can see it in my redness. It's just not an overall. It just can't do it. So transparency has always been really second nature to me. So I know in the last episode I mentioned it's a pillar of our business. I'm so thankful that Damon is that way as well. And it's for a lot of reasons. It's honestly, being transparent we do that for a lot of reasons other than I'm a bad liar, right? It definitely builds trust. It definitely builds relatability. I really just think it can only do good for you as a person, for you as a business owner, for you as a human. I think just being open is an overall good thing. Now, there's definitely times where oversharing is probably not the right thing to do. So there's probably some line in the sand there where you should just be open and honest, and there's some where you can just keep some stuff to yourself. Not everyone needs to know that. But in terms of running your business, y'all, I'm going to try to keep it to the Makers Mean Business podcast, at least in the bounds of that. I think it's always nice to be transparent with your community and customers. Y'all, I know I'm gonna use those words interchangeably. I hate to think of our community as customers, but at the same time, I am a business owner, and I think sometimes you do have to wear that hat and think of things from a business perspective, where you are worried about customer retention, and you are worried about monetization, and you are worried about making sales, keeping customers, lifetime values. All of the things that go into running a business is also important. But honestly, the business is built on the community. So we have to keep that in mind as well. Being transparent, y'all, I think it just adds so much to a community. If you look up to someone, anyone, whether it be us or not, if you look up to them and that they are being open with you and being honest with you and being transparent with you and sharing wins, sharing losses, sharing failures, sharing successes, all equally, I think it makes people that much more respectable, that much more relatable. I touched on this on the last episode, but I feel like I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. A lot of our business coaching students look up to us, I think, or they at least see something in our business that they want to either emulate or learn about. And I think it's important to share the struggles and the losses, not only because Damon and I are both kind of teachers at heart in a way, Damon more so than me, but I think I think there's a certain amount of inspiration. I think there's a certain amount of relatability. I think there's a certain amount of respect that comes when you share your struggles, especially as a leader, as a teacher, as an educator, as a business owner. If some of our customers, some of our students can look up to us and say, oh, they failed and they worked through it. Everyone loves to be a winner, but I think the reality is there's a lot of losses that come before you win, no matter what it is you're doing. Now, sometimes you just sometimes you have a quick win and that's fine. But I think along the path of business, of really anything, there's just struggle. There's just pain. There's just failure. There's just all kinds of things along the path to success, right? And I think being transparent is sharing some of that with the people you're trying to inspire and the people you're trying to share with. Now, there's a few facets to this transparency as I'm touching on here. There's the transparency as if you're a student and a teacher relationship, and then there's the transparency with the customer and the business relationship, right? So I'm gonna go this direction now. So transparency with our customers, with people who purchase something. If you guys are totally out of the loop with what happened on the whole Wreath supply box debacle, the short version is we messed up around 1,000 people's subscription box. And we didn't deliver on the things that we promised in the way that we wanted to. And we were transparent with them about that as soon as we knew what was happening, right? So as soon as we knew what was happening, as soon as I knew those 300 boxes did not go out seemingly at all, that I can tell, we emailed them, we messaged them, we're live on Facebook talking about them, we posted on Facebook groups. We did our best to let them know not only what happened, but how we were going to solve that problem. And on a similar vein, whenever we realized that it was just, y'all, this all happened last week. This was not a good week. As soon as I realized that some of the stuff was not in some of the boxes that they were supposed to, we took the same route, right? We let them know, let the customers know, hey, this happened. Hey, this is what we're trying to do. If that's not okay, let us know and we'll try to fix it another way. So that transparency immediately kicked in. Now, before that, Damon and I sat down or had a quick conversation. Okay, here's what happened. How do we fix it? And brainstormed ideas. And as soon as we knew what we wanted to do, we were just really upfront with the customer and let them know, and the community and let them know. And the beautiful part is that the majority, as far as I know, everyone was super supportive and understanding. Now, some people wanted it fixed immediately, which I totally get and I totally understand. But for the most part, everyone was super patient and super kind. And that kind of goes back to community building and having a solid community, which I'm going to talk about on the next episode. But right now, that type of transparency is what I think fed into such a strong customer base and such a strong community. Because I feel like if we pretended like everything was fine, then people would realize, what if someone had posted or someone had called a friend and said, hey, I didn't get my box, or my box was missing. Did you get this? And they said, no, I didn't either. That's weird. I think that can be perceived as shady. On the online space, I think people are very weary of people who are shady. And Damon and I both didn't want any reason for anyone not to trust us ever. Honestly, as someone who's on camera a lot, who's talking to clients, customers, the community, Facebook Lives, calls, whatever it is, it's exhausting to be fake as it is. So this goes back to me not being a good liar and not being able to not be transparent and upfront. But it's super exhausting to try to be fake. So people usually know whenever something's wrong or something went right or something went wrong. I think it's super exhausting to lie. And super exhausting to try to remember all of the lies. So I just really try to avoid it. That way, whenever someone asks me something, I immediately know, oh, that's what it was. I don't have to think about all of these other things that I may have said one time. And that, again, goes back to the transparency. But I think you guys probably see where I'm going with this. I didn't want to give, way back when we started the Facebook group and the Facebook page and all the things, I didn't want to give anyone any reason to believe that I was running some kind of shady business or trying to be something that we're not, or trying to do things that we're not, or I guess really just living up to what we say we're going to do. We try really hard to do the things that we say we're going to do and deliver on the things that we say we're going to do. So it just felt natural being this transparent with everyone. But honestly, I really think that's part of why we have been successful in our businesses, because that level of transparency and upfrontness and just owning your mistakes, owning who you are and who you're not and what you did and what you didn't do, I think that just makes us that much more likable and that much more relatable to other people, really. And all this to say is, I think there's probably a level of transparency that if you're not doing in your business, in your customers, in your life, that it would probably, I'm going to use a fancy word, it would probably behoove you. It would probably be good for your relationships, whether it be your personal relationship or your business relationships or your business to customer, business to consumer, whatever it is. I think it's okay to show your human side in this transparency. We're not robots. We're not perfect. We all make mistakes. This is all like very cliche sayings, right? Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect. But I think being able to gracefully acknowledge that you also aren't perfect, it makes you just that much more relatable. It makes you that much more of a person. And this day and age, I really think that brands are not just businesses anymore. There's especially smaller businesses. People expect to know the person, expect to know the reason behind the brand. And sometimes that's you, especially when you're just starting out. You are the face of the business. You are the brand. You are the everything. So if you can build that initial community and that initial customer base front facing with transparency, I think it would be a good thing for your business as you grow. Because speaking from experience here, the more you grow, the harder things are, the more mistakes you're going to make, the tougher it is, you're going to have to hire help. They're going to make mistakes. So being able to be upfront with your community and your customers is just, it makes things so much easier. It makes things so much easier. I was super upset whenever we messed all this stuff up. And like I said, last week was hell, but just knowing that I could just tell everyone what happened and know that they would understand and know that this wouldn't shock them, right? Us being upfront about something wouldn't shock them. And that just made it that much easier, because once I moved on past me being upset with myself, I didn't have to worry like, oh, everyone else is going to be upset too. Now, I knew some people were going to be upset. I knew that was totally going to be fine. But I mentioned it on the last episode. I knew that there was going to be support from us telling everyone what was happening. And it honestly just made life that much easier. Y'all, here's a free tidbit. This is some free business advice. By the way, if you guys do want to get more in-depth business advice from us, you can always check out themakersuniversity.com. I'll make sure that the link to that is in the show notes. But we have a ton of business coaching resources. We have live office hours, I want to say 5 times a week, if not 6. We have recorded tutorials. We have a really great community of handmade artisans and other things too. But we do niche down to handmade artisans that want to sell their product online. Again, that's themakersuniversity.com. But y'all, some free business advice. If you aren't using artificial intelligence, AI, ChatGPT, whatever it might be in your business, you definitely should try it out. This was actually the kind of outline, the general premise of this story, the general premise of, I guess, dissecting this story and making podcast episodes out of it was all done by AI. And it helped me break it down into something I could just use as a springboard. I guess shout out to AI for helping me write all these episodes and get all of the important bits out of it. It's honestly funny. I probably should have shared this on the first episode, but I was nervous, so I was just trying to get it done. It made a title. It made the different episode titles. The title it came up with was Navigating Business Challenges, A Maker's Journey to Resilience. How good is that? Knowing where I wanted to start with the podcast, at least this 7-part series, I wanted to talk about an issue that we had, a mistake that we had made, and the challenges along the way. And the end of the title says A Maker's Journey to Resilience. And the last episode was called Building Resilience. And we're slowly making our way on how to deal with problems and how to be resilient and just work through them, right? But it's so funny. So episode 1 is called The Heart of the Matter. That was last episode. This episode is called Transparency First. The next episode, the 3rd episode, is called Community to the Rescue. The 4th episode, that one was boring. We probably could have zhuzhed it up a little bit, but this one's called Lessons and Improvements. Episode 5 is called Excellence in Customer Service. Episode 6 is called Engaging with Your Audience. And then episode 7 was called Building Resilience. So I leveraged AI to come up with these titles and then to give me like generic talking points after I explained to it the issue that I was with the subscription box and what we did and how I wanted to relate it to makers and business owners and basically turn it into a podcast. So again, if you guys aren't using AI in your business, you absolutely should be. So I'll read just the outline. It was 4 lines, maybe 5 lines. So the first thing, I'm just going to read it just for the content too here. Introduction, it says, start with the value of transparency in business, setting the stage for a discussion on honest communication. I feel like I did that. Choosing transparency, it says, narrate the decision-making process for being open with customers about the issues, including any hesitations and final decisions. I feel like I did that too. The next one was impact on customer trust. Discuss how transparency affected customer relationships, sharing specific examples or feedback received. I didn't do that very well. But honestly, I think most of you guys are probably our existing community/customers already. And I think time after time, we have always been super transparent. If we're behind on orders, we let you guys know. I email our customers probably once a quarter and say, hey, we're super backed up. I'm so sorry. It's going to be a little while. And I think just having that open and honest, it's not like a communication, but it's communication, but it's just transparency, right? Transparency. I can't tell you the amount of times that whenever we do share that stuff, people are like, oh no, it's fine. I totally get it. Y'all are busy. Things happen. Stuff changes, all of the things. Honestly, it's so nice to have that support. And I really do accredit the support to the transparency. I said it a couple times. I am not always very kind to myself, especially when I make a mistake. And having those cheerleaders and having that community to be so supportive and say, oh no, it's okay, to be the kindness that I'm not to myself sometimes, that is super, super cool. Super cool. And I credit a lot of that to transparency. Back to the outline though, it does say closing thoughts. Emphasize transparency as a cornerstone of a trustworthy brand. I feel like I've done that too. Y'all, I'm just checking all the boxes here. And then lastly, it says to give you guys a call to action. Apparently, I'm supposed to just tell you guys to do things. If you've ever written emails, if you've ever written Facebook posts or any kind of social media, if you've ever done a live video, you've probably heard of a call to action. If you don't, here's a free tip of business advice. You probably should have a call to action. You should probably get people to do something, right? So in emails, it might say, hey, click this link. That's a call to action. In your video, it'd say, hey, go check out my Etsy shop. That's a call to action. In this podcast, I'm going to say, reflect and share your experiences on transparency in your business. Maybe there's times where you should have been transparent and you weren't. In hindsight, maybe you thought that. Maybe there's times where you were and probably weren't supposed to be. There's, you know who's really good at transparency in our business when you're not supposed to be or probably shouldn't be? Coach Tammy and Coach Megan. If y'all are listening, they share way too much. Sometimes I'm like, nobody needs to know that. I think we all probably have those friends where they share way too much, and that's good. I'm good, y'all. You can stop. I think you probably know. But shout out to them, y'all. I love both of them. But anyway, I think you guys should reflect on sometimes maybe you should have been transparent or you could have been more transparent. Maybe you were scared of people seeing you as a failure, as someone who couldn't deliver on their promises, someone who, I don't know, maybe weren't going to live up to your expectations. But I would challenge you to maybe rethink that and think, maybe this will make me more human. I'm not saying make mistakes on purpose. What I'm saying is be upfront and honest and transparent about who you are, what happened, what didn't happen, how you're going to fix it. That's probably a really important point that I didn't talk about enough. Every time that we shared with our customers with this issue, we told them, hey, this is what we're doing to fix it. And I think that adds a lot of value too. So especially when you're discussing some mistakes or some problems, make sure that you're sharing how to fix this stuff, you guys. Y'all, I think that's it for this episode. The next episode, I'm going to be talking about community. Community to the rescue is this third episode in the 7-part series. I've touched a lot or a little bit on it in the first episode and the second episode, but community building in general, gosh, it's just made such a big difference in our business all around. I'm going to try to share some tips on community building in the next episode, give you guys some actionable things. So make sure you check that out. You can always subscribe to the podcast anywhere you get your podcast. Makers Mean Business, you guys. I'll see you next time.